Hi, English 1022 students. Welcome to Module 4. I'll just take a few minutes to give you a preview of the schedule, which you see on the screen. And then I want to talk to you about the workshops and then talk to you a little bit about an extra credit assignment for Module 4. All right, so day 1, ideally Monday or Tuesday, you all should be logging in. I plan to have all of the comments in the gradebook on your template or outline and on your secondary sources by Wednesday of this week. And I'll probably do something every week on the collaborative discussion board and the work that you all are posting there and commenting on one another's work. But I'll probably highlight a few secondary sources that I thought were really good ideas, just so you can see what kinds of ideas connect really well to your rhetorical analysis, the analysis you're doing of the writer's rhetorical situation and the writer's argumentative structure and other things you're noticing about the writing. This week, you should be, if you don't have a full draft, finishing a rough draft and doing revisions. And everything in the module will help you to do those revisions. To include reading a writer's draft, and commenting, giving some feedback on it in the workshop. So I'm going to move over very quickly to, I'm in the discussion board, you notice here, and I'm in the workshop, and 503 students, I'm in the 501 shell. So everything looks the same, but your names will be on in your discussion board forum. But you'll notice that every writer assigned to workshop 1 has a thread. And so the writer should click on this thread. The readers, you'll see your names listed as readers in the thread. So go find your thread. The writers will post the drafts by the end of the day on Tuesday, the 13th. And so readers, you have the 14th and the 15th to read and provide feedback. So make sure that you post that feedback in a timely fashion. The writers won't receive the feedback if you don't meet that deadline by of Thursday the 15th. And I'll be commenting on all of the drafts as well. So there'll be plenty of feedback for you all to read. Yeah, certainly move into other feedback, into other groups to read feedback, to see what other people are saying to their writers, read other writers' drafts if you'd like to, but you're only assigned to read the drafts, the one draft that you're assigned to. And I would also mention that if a writer chooses not to post the draft, not to do the assignment, then please feel free to move to another group and post your feedback to another writer. Because sometimes writers decide that they can't post their draft or something happens and they don't post their draft. So don't let that stop you from doing your work. You're watching the video now, and then I did post the grade sheet. It's a comment sheet. It's not a rubric like you may expect or have used with other instructors in the past. I have a set of criteria that you're meeting in the writing for the semester, and then I individualize each comment sheet with comments, feedback on your writing so that you can begin to be aware of your writing strengths. And I use the word weakness, but of course we can say areas of improvement as well. So check out that grade sheet, that comment sheet, and let me know if you have questions about it. I would also maybe make time this week to work with a tutor on campus or online. Don't forget that the online consultation with the writing tutor at Front Range, if you use the online writing lab, you can meet with them in a video, a one-on-one video, or there's a file submission form. So let me know if you have questions about either of those. There's I did place links in D2L to all the campuses and to the online writing lab. All right, so last week I asked you to look at a secondary, Last week I asked you to look at a rhetorical analysis called A Spirit Reborn, and there's going to be an extra credit assignment associated with this journal that you write at the end of the week. So make sure you read The Spirit Reborn and take some time to read it again if you've read it once, and if you haven't read it at all, you should definitely read it. It's a more advanced rhetorical analysis than the student essays that were in our textbook, and so I'm really interested that you read that more advanced writing and look at how that essay was structured, which was really why we did the template exercise, the template or the outline exercise, that you were able to identify what your paragraphs would be. And so we're going to do kind of a reverse of that for the extra credit assignment, which I'll share at the end of this video, where you will read the piece and be able to identify what the paragraphs are about and where secondary sources are, etc. So this is pretty important reading, pretty advanced reading that we're doing in English 1022 to be able to identify what writers do in writing, and then being able to take that analysis and apply it to our own writing is a pretty important way of reading. So again, make sure, readers, that you post your workshop comments on the writer's drafts in the discussion board. The deadline is Thursday the 15th by 11:59 p.m. There's a section in the textbook on giving responses and receiving responses. Writers aren't really saying anything in the discussion board this week after they post their drafts. They're just kind of reading through the comments. So being able to receive those comments is also important. So that's why this section is called Getting and Giving Responses. There is a rhetorical analysis chapter in your textbook, you all. So make sure you find those. I'll post the page numbers within the module for some textbook reading. So make sure you're using that chapter. If you have any questions about what a rhetorical analysis is or how it works, we've looked at some example essays. And there's also a section at the end of the chapter with some yellow pages that help you to move through your draft. So if you're having some challenges writing parts of your draft, you might check out that final section of the textbook that really guides you through the writing process. All right, and so the last day of Module 4, you're going to do another journal. And this week, the journal is not only the extra credit, which you see I've mentioned here, and I'll get to those extra credit questions in just a minute, but it's also to share with me what you learned from the workshop, sharing with me your workshop experience. So writers, you'll be talking about the feedback you get, and readers, what you'll be doing instead of receiving feedback is thinking about how the draft that you read, the writer's draft that you read, helped you to realize something about the draft you're submitting at the end of the week, and maybe inspired some revisions that you made, or looking at other people's comments and helping, which may have helped you to see the writer's draft in another way. But the idea here is that participating in the workshop and seeing a few different writers writing, I mean, you're only responding to one writer, but you certainly can move into the other groups and see other drafts and what other readers are saying, but also within your own group, thinking about what the readers have said and how that may have made you think about your own draft and applied some revision ideas that you've read in workshop. So really interested in your comments at the end of the week, because the writing workshop that we're doing this week is for everyone, even though only a few writers are getting feedback. Make sure you revise your rhetorical analysis, really spend time doing that, and also spend time editing, y'all. Remember, revision and editing are separate stages. So, I usually go through a draft when I'm revising 2 or 3 times as I'm moving things around and clarifying comments. And then I also go through my draft maybe another 2 or 3 times to edit for the errors that I know I typically make. So spend time doing some editing work. There is an MLA review video, so make sure you watch that and add your in-text citations and add your Works Cited page. And if you have any questions about Works Cited or in-text citations within the Modern Language Association documentation system, definitely set up a check-in meeting with me this week. And then you are submitting your rhetorical analysis for assessment and grading by the end of the week. It's due by 11:59 p.m. On the 18th of September. And don't forget that it does have a grace period deadline. You can turn your rhetorical analysis in a day or 2 late, or even up to a week late. So make sure you think about whether you need the grace period. You may not need it, and I definitely think it's there to support you if you need it, but it's not a good idea just to use it just just to, submit the draft within that grace period week, because we are moving on to essay 2, and so you'll be working on 2 essays at the same time at that point, right? So let's talk about extra credit. I'm going to open up a PowerPoint slide just to type out what I'm about to say. The extra credit is worth 20 points, so definitely worth doing. And what I'll ask you to do is to post this extra credit in your journal when you talk to me about, oh, that's fantastic. It doesn't want to give me the file that I want. So here we go. We'll do this one. You'll post the extra credit into the journal that you write to me about your workshop experience. So mod 4, and let's do the extra credit on one of these slides. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to analyze William Safire's A Spirit Reborn. And type in the following information in your post. So tell me your workshop experience, and then you can just kind of do a couple of bullet points to tell me the rest of this information. So the first thing I want to know is where the statement of purpose is. In other words, IOW, where's the thesis? Your thesis in your rhetorical analysis can be early in the essay. That would be a deductive analysis or a deductive argument, or it could be at the end of the essay, which would be an inductive argument, because it would be stated in the conclusion. So where is this one? You can give me the paragraph number, or you can put in quotation marks where you found the statement of purpose. I call a thesis statement a statement of purpose, not a thesis. Thesis is high school to me. It's high school language, so I'm using both words there just so you can see that I'm using a different name. I'm wanting to know 2 examples of secondary sources. I'm pausing to type out the question, but I'm also pausing to think about the fact that William Safire is writing an essay for the New York Times and is not required to use Modern Language Association, does not have MLA in-text citations, does not have MLA works cited entries, does not have a bibliography. So what you're going to have to do is find the paragraphs where it's likely the William Safire researched information, and then tell me what that outside researched information is. So they won't be identifiable by in-text citations, for example. And the last thing I will ask you to do is to tell me how many rhetorical devices does Safire analyze. So you tell me a number and provide 2 examples of the devices Safire names and analyzes. So remember, Safire is analyzing Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. Safire is going to name devices. They might be schemes, they might be tropes, they might be those sound patterns that we talked about during Module 3. And I want you to find them, count how many he identifies, and then give me 2 examples, name them. And so this would be worth 20 points. Total 5 points here. And 5 points here. And then 10 points here. 5 for getting the correct number of devices right. And 5 for naming the 2 schemes, tropes, or patterns you noticed, sound patterns you noticed. So y'all, listen, this is a quiz, but I encourage you to communicate with one another during the week. And you can do that in the workshop form on the discussion board. That sounds cool to me. Maybe just work with your group members. You can move into another group if you want to say, hey, y'all, help with the quiz. Let's talk about it. And I will also set up an optional extra credit forum in the discussion board, the collaborative discussion board. So it's not required that you participate there, but if you want to talk with folks about the extra credits, you can ensure highest number of points. Do that. Collaborate, communicate, talk about it, and get the most points you can by analyzing a rhetorical analysis essay that was published in the New York Times, because you're working on a rhetorical analysis and you're publishing it at the end of the week for assessment and grading. Have a great Module 4, you all, and I hope I get to talk to you during the week for a check-in meeting, and if not, enjoy your week of writing and reading, and take care. Talk to you soon.